Hey guys, and welcome back. I'm Rachel O'Leary and we're up here in my living room next to my 5-gallon fluval spec. Now, recently one of my customers had to move cross country, so he surrendered his fish to me, one of which was a Betta splendens, and I thought that this was an excellent opportunity to talk to you guys about some basic Betta care. So let's get started. Now, generally, I stay away from line-bred variations of fish, but this guy was a surrender to me. And with how widely popular they are, and let's be honest here, absolutely gorgeous, I thought it was a really good opportunity to talk to you guys about some of the crazy myths and misinformation that is out there about housing, keeping, and taking care of these really neat and unique fish. I also need help picking a name for this guy, so let me know down in the comments what you think I should name it. Now, this is obviously a boy, or at least obviously to me. The vast majority of these long, thin, really flashy looking bettas are boys. And because of their roots in fighting, they really should be housed alone. Otherwise, they can do really significant damage or even kill each other. Now, this guy is in my fluval 5-gallon spec. I moved my shrimp out and I moved him in. And that's not to say that bettas can't work with shrimp, but it really has a lot to do with the temperament of the betta, so I thought it best to start out with him on his own. Now, I think most people are aware of bettas being kept in small bowls and cups, and you know, the general defense of this is that, well, in the wild, they can survive in little puddles of water. But let's be real, folks, that is for a very, very short time during a dry season, and that's certainly not something that we should try and replicate. In an ideal world, you could keep these guys in a gallon aquarium if you are willing to do a lot of work. As I've talked about in other videos, the more dilution, the easier it is to maintain. And while these guys shouldn't be housed with others of their own type, they certainly are suitable to be kept with a wide range of other fishes. And the bigger the tank you use, the more versatility. Not only that, but with these really long fins, they can be prone to some fin rot, and the more dilution really helps you keep things extremely stable. My preference is a minimum tank size of 2.5 gallon for these guys, with 5 or larger actually being better. In fact, they make an exceptional centerpiece fish in something like a 20 long or a 10 gallon. Now, they do need a stable temperature. They are ones that, you know, they come from warmer waters, and it's really best to keep them in the mid-70s or above 25 degrees Celsius. They do like a fair amount of decor, and that's for a few reasons. With these line-bred fins that we've put into them, they really have a difficult time managing flow, so it's important that your filtration can be modified in order to prevent quiet areas in the tank for them. That's one of the reasons I really like this fluval spec. You can manipulate the output of the filter in order to have it bounce off the glass in different areas to provide a quiet place for this guy to swim, where he won't get exhausted simply from trying to swim. Also, I thought that this tank was particularly well suited because it has these plants right up here at the surface. One thing that you should also know about bettas is that they are a labyrinth fish. They're in the gourami family, and that labyrinth organ is how they breathe atmospheric oxygen. This is how they can survive so well in those low oxygen puddles, and it also means that they can survive in the smaller containers you often see them in. Again, we're talking about surviving, not thriving. When you're planning decor for a betta tank, it's nice to offer them some sort of soft plant or decor right up near the surface where they can rest. This guy really, really likes this spot. Not only is it one of the quietest parts of the aquarium, but it's covered with subwassertang and anubias, which are very gentle on his slime coat and fins. It's important, if you're not using live plants, that you really pay attention to the texture of the decor that you're using. For instance, if you're going to use plastic plants, be aware that they can really shred some fins. Silk are way better, and of course you guys know my opinion that live plants are always best. I think that you'll find that they have a ton of personality and are really rewarding to keep. Now, I've only had this one for a few days, so I'm still getting to know him, but he sure seems to be pretty darn sassy. Now, if you guys are interested in learning more about their conformation, fin types, and showing, I would highly recommend that you check out the International Betta Congress. They have shows all over the world for all different species of bettas and a really great registry. They even have a magazine that you can get called Flare. So if you're a betta enthusiast, I really would recommend you checking them out. So just to recap, about 2.5 gallons is best for these guys with gentle filtration. If you're using a kit like this, it can be modified or bounced off the glass to provide that gentle flow. If you were to set up an aquarium from scratch, I would probably recommend a sponge filter. Make sure you choose Decor that is not going to shred their fins. Avoid really sharp rock types and plastic plants that are brittle. Silk plants or live plants and things like driftwood work really well. Make sure you provide an area in the tank where they can rest. This swirl in this wood is definitely this betta's favorite. He likes to hang out there quite a lot. Now he's a crown tail betta, which is a line bred version of the Betta splendens. And he's not completely perfect, but we'll give him some time and some clean water and see how he does. But he's definitely sassy and happy, however. Now, bettas are probably one of the more popular aquarium fish simply because they have the reputation of being really durable. And while it's true that they can survive a lot of conditions, I think to keep them well takes some special considerations. Now, we all know they're sold in cups, and everyone always says, you know, they're found in little tiny puddles in the wild, but that's really totally untrue. While they do come from rice paddies can be enormous. Not only that, these guys are so far removed from the wild type of fish that survive in those conditions that it's really irrelevant. As with any fish we take into our care, we should be more concerned with them thriving than surviving. Now, I think the history of bettas are pretty interesting. Betta splendens, which is what these guys are mainly derived from, have been kept as pets since 1840 and were introduced into the United States market in the mid-1920s, I think around 1927. And they've been being line bred for their entire history, so they look very, very little like their wild counterparts. The closest as a wild counterpart would be the placket type or the short fin bettas. These guys are a designer fish, meaning that we, the hobbyists and breeders, have bred them specifically to reinforce color traits and tail types to make them more attractive to us, not for their own benefit. I think that clean water is of the utmost importance for this kind of fish. While they have the reputation of being sturdy, and because they're an atmospheric air breather, they can survive poor conditions, it really takes a toll on their slime coat and their fin health and shortens their lifespan dramatically. If you're keeping them in a tank without a filter, you would want to do daily water changes. And remember, guys, the smaller the aquarium, the bigger the fluctuation of parameters. So again, even with this species, bigger is better. You just want to make sure that when picking your filtration, you have the ability to provide quiet spots in the aquarium. In this one, I have this output bouncing off the front glass, so that back third is very quiet for the betta, allowing him to use the entire tank. Sponge filters are extremely popular with bettas. They are a great choice, and if I were to be setting up a non-kit tank for this guy, that is definitely what I would do. I prefer to keep things as natural as possible and let this beautiful color of this fish show instead of using unnatural decor. But the reality is, whatever you like is fine as long as it's not going to damage the fish's fins. Now, these guys are meat eaters. They are easy to feed, and they are especially easy to overfeed because they are so interactive and such little pigs. I like to feed them a mix of foods, but mainly frozen worms or microcrustaceans. I do occasionally give them a treat of some freeze-dried, but I prefer to use things like frozen bloodworms or frozen cyclops or daphnia for them. All in all, these are a wildly popular fish. Now, the thing that I need most from you guys is I need help coming up with a name. It's been about 5 years since I've had a betta, and this guy sure seems sassy. He's even starting a little bubble nest in that corner already. So let me know below what you think his name should be. I hope you guys have enjoyed learning just a little bit more about bettas with me. Let me know below again what you guys think I should name this guy. I really need some clever ideas. As always, thank you for your continued support. Make sure you hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. As always, make sure you stop by all my social medias and let me know below if you have any comments, suggestions, or questions.